Hi, I'm Dr. Asha Priyanka, your public health dentist. Welcome back to part 2 of the Epidemiology of Dental Caries. Now that we have discussed the distribution and prediction of dental caries, the next question naturally is, why does this disease occur? Now, to understand that, we move into the causal framework of dental caries. Let's talk in depth about the causes. So for this, there's something called a classic model explaining it, called the Keys Triad. Now, according to the Keys, 3 factors must interact in order for caries to occur. First is our host or our teeth, and then microorganisms and substrate, which is our diet. In detail, we'll see in the coming up steps. Now, only when these 3 factors interact does the disease process begin. If 2 of them interact, there is no caries. 2 of them interact, no caries. Only when all 3 interact, caries will form. Now let's look at the modified Keys model. So basically, later on, researchers realized that there are some more factors that play a crucial role, and one is time. So the model was expanded into modified Keys diagram, which now includes the host, microorganisms, diet, and time. So it says that caries will develop only when these factors interact over a sufficient period of time. Right. Now, a few more factors were added into this over some research and time. These include the role of socioeconomic, behavioral, and environmental factors as well to the traditional triad. So basically, we talk about low socioeconomic statuses are associated with limited access to care, to high sugar diet, and low fluoride exposure. And then comes our parental education. So this also impacts the oral health knowledge of a person, their habits and supervision to which they give to their children. And then the oral hygiene practices of a person, which is infrequent or impromptu brushing, which leads to improper brushing techniques, which lead to the plaque accumulation. This is also a factor. And then fluoride use. So we say that this enhances the remineralization and inhibits the bacterial activity. And cultural and behavioral factors. So habits like bottle feeding in babies or at night, or infrequent snacking, all influence caries risk. Now, these are included in the modified Keys triad, but majorly these can be, either present or not. But the major 3 constraints, which is our plaque, diet, and tooth, along with over a period of time, these factors are compulsory. Only if all of these factors are there, and possibly one or more of the other factors, it can cause dental caries. Now let's talk about these etiological factors or these causing factors in detail. First is our biofilm. So plaque is not just bacteria randomly sitting there. It is structured microbial community, and it is embedded in a matrix which is very highly organized. Now, with frequent sugar intake, this biofilm will become acidogenic. It will produce acid, and the shift towards acidouric bacteria, which means that it will survive on low pH. So the result here would be high caries risk. So plaque is not innocent. It adapts to based on what you eat. Then come our salivary factors. Over here, because saliva is our defense system, it is our natural protective mechanism. So how does it function? Firstly, through flow rate. It flushes away the food debris and it dilutes the acids that are available in the mouth. And then comes our pH and buffering capacity. What this does is neutralizes these acids and protects the enamel, creates a coating on the teeth. Then comes our antibacterial components like lysozyme and lactoferrin, IgA. These all reduce the bacterial growth. And then our mineral content like the calcium and phosphate, this helps in remineralization. Now it's important here that things like medication or radiation or dehydration will reduce the saliva in a person's mouth, and that will increase the caries risk. So less saliva equal to less protection equal to more caries. Then comes our fluoride. This is a modulating factor here. Fluoride doesn't basically stop caries alone, but it modifies its process. What it does is it incorporates into the enamel and makes it very resistant. It also reduces the solubility of the enamel, and it inhibits bacterial enzymes. It also promotes remineralization of any early lesions that are there. The sources of fluoride would be the toothpaste that we use, fluoridation, water fluoridation, varnishes and mouth rinses. These are the common community level of interventions. So basically fluoride will tip the balance in favor of the tooth. Then comes our environmental factors and behavioral factors. So these are real life habits and a person's surroundings. Things like diet, which is the frequency of sugar intake, fluoride availability, a person's or a community's access to dental care, early childhood caries, or early childhood habits like bottle feeding or pacifier. People use sweetened pacifiers, and parental beliefs and their awarenesses. These are especially important in early childhood caries. Caries really begins at home and not in the clinic. Then the next etiological factor is genetic or immunologic factor. So these explain why some people get caries faster. So the enamel structure differences are there. Saliva composition differences are there. Immune response variations are there. And taste preferences are there. Like, we say somebody has a sweet tooth. They have a liking for more sweet food. So all these are also factors that will contribute to dental caries. And also the presence of immunoglobulin A, IgA, in saliva plays a role in the mucosal immunity and the colonization of bacteria. So basically some teeth are born a little stronger than other teeth. So let's put this in a few words. Caries happens when one, plaque plus sugar causes acid. Saliva and fluoride will try and repair it, and behavior and genetics will modify it. These small tidbits, these small explanations, don't hinge away from writing them in your exam. Write down your answer and then write down this explanation, a small little 2-3 points or like a review of what you have written. It really impresses the examiners also. It lets people know that you understand what's going on. You can only make something shorter and into a smaller sentence, in one sentence, when you understand the whole thing and take out a key point. So that's what I want you to try and do here. Now let's talk about prevention of dental caries. So prevention strategies, as you know, are usually divided into 3 levels: primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. Now, primary prevention aims to prevent the onset of disease. So in this case, it would include fluoride use, it would include dietary counseling, it would include oral hygiene promotion and pit and fissure sealants. Secondary prevention involves early detection and management of non-cavitated lesions. So this will include our remineralization therapies and regular dental checkups. Also our caries risk assessment. Then comes our tertiary prevention, which focuses on treatment and rehabilitation of established disease. Now the disease is already there, we have to treat it and rehabilitate it. So this includes restorations and pulp therapies. Now let's talk about a concept called dental caries vaccine. Did you know there's a dental caries vaccine? The research is still very ongoing and into development of the dental caries vaccine. The aim is to basically stimulate an immune response against the key cariogenic bacteria, particularly Streptococcus mutans. Now, different approaches have been studied, which include whole cell vaccines, subunit vaccines, which target the bacterial adhesions, and mucosal vaccines that stimulate the secretory IgA. So a lot of different approaches, but the point is to, or the main key point is to stimulate immune response against one main bacteria, that is the Streptococcus mutans. However, due to safety concerns and complexity of oral microbiology, there's no commercial caries vaccine currently available. Now let's talk about some caries trends. Over the past few decades, the pattern of dental caries has changed a lot. In many developed countries, caries prevalence has actually declined. Why? Because preventive measures like fluoridation and improved oral hygiene practices, all this has taken place. But in developing countries, the disease burden still remains very high because of their dietary changes, because of urbanization and very limited access to dental care. So another important trend is the increasing recognition of early childhood caries, and this is a very significant global problem. Now comes our surveillance systems. So caries surveillance involves the continuous collection, analysis and interpretation of data to guide prevention and policy. So this helps us monitor the disease trends and evaluate public health programs. Like I said previously, feedback is very, very important. Now you don't just launch a public health program, you also want to take feedback, monitor surveillance, and through surveillance and monitoring you want to know if your system or what you have introduced is working or not. So this basically what is used to monitor is the DMFT and DMFS indices, significant caries index, the ICDAS or ICDAS clinical detection system, and national oral health surveys. So finally, some global organizations such as the World Health Organization and Indian Association of Public Health Dentistry or IAPHD have established some oral health goals with regard to dental caries. Now these goals include reducing caries prevalence in children, increasing access to fluoride based preventive measures, integrating oral health into non-communicable disease programs as well, like the NCD disease program, and strengthening our surveillance systems, and also promoting oral health education. If you look at the entire chapter again, it follows quite a logical path. We start with the disease, what it is, we move on to the prediction, we try and understand the causes, we discuss control strategies, and finally we look at monitoring and global health goals. Now, once you see this structure, the topic of epidemiology of dental caries becomes much easier to understand and much easier to replicate in your exam. Often I hear my students say that this chapter is very overwhelming. So I hope now it doesn't feel like that anymore. Although I would urge you to go to the app and make your own notes, make your own flashcards, go through the ones we already have for you, ready for you, and so that you can lock this topic in your head while it's fresh. Don't forget this framework structure. In my understanding, students turn out to know about each of these subheadings on their own, but they feel very overwhelmed as they don't structure it as a whole. It just feels very cluttered in their head. So today that's what I want you to do. I want you to declutter, I want you to give it structure, and then write out what you think is the answer to each, and then go through the video again. Okay, for now let's look at an MCQ and a flashcard that can come from this topic. What is the karyogram? It's a risk prediction model which is given by Brathall in 1997 that uses a pie chart to represent the relative contribution of diet, bacteria, susceptibility, circumstances to caries risk. Which of the following is the most important dietary factor in the development of dental caries? A. Quantity of sugar consumed. frequency of sugar intake, temperature of food, and type of protein consumed. Now, like I always stress, over here, now that you've just listened to the whole video, this answer might feel very easy, it might even feel stupid, but after 10 days, after 15 days, when you look at this MCQ alone, without the topic, without the video, you will be able to eliminate two things: one, temperature of food, and two, type of protein consumed. You will be able to eliminate those two, but you will be stuck possibly between quantity of sugar consumed and frequency of sugar intake. Now, I don't want that for you. I want you to understand the topic enough so that you don't get stuck between two, because 2 is still a 50-50 chance, and that's still a very less chance of getting it correct, right? So the answer is B, frequency of sugar intake. You must always know this, that it's the first thing when a patient walks in, when a child walks into your clinic, it's the first thing you say as well. You look at the frequency of their intake, not the quantity. You can also tell sometimes, during a diet also, they tell us that, have that little bit of sweet if you have to, because you have to have that that satisfaction, but have it along with a meal. You don't want it to be a mid-meal snack, because the frequency of sugar intake increases and that causes caries, right? Now, if this topic was easy for you to understand and this format works for you, please let me know in the comments below. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and for more notifications, so that you know when such videos are out. If you're still looking for the book, where to purchase it, it's available on Amazon, Flipkart, Dental Cart, and on our website. The app also provides all of these mind maps, and you can go through them for better benefit and better understanding of the topic. So I will see you in the next topic.